Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today, we are joined by a lovely adoptive family, Danielle and Jason, who are going to share their experience of being placed with their daughter and give us a little bit of their perspective on the birth parent experience and journey and how they view the birth parent role in their family. So I'd like to welcome Danielle and Jason.
Hey.
Hi.
Happy to be here and discuss this.
Can you guys just give a brief overview of when you came to the agency and when you were placed with your daughter?
We came to the agency in 2019, and it took about 3 years for the placement to go through. So we were the longest, or one of the longest waiting families. Now that I see what having an infant is like, not having an infant during COVID, there are pluses and minuses to both. I am not playing down the waiting process at all, though. There were definitely tears shed during that waiting process.
Yeah, and COVID really delayed everything. So seeing the number of families go down each month was just tough to see, and that added to the difficulty of waiting. But we were matched in September of 2021.
Yeah. And that was pretty wonderful and magical. And I remember, Amanda, it was you that said, whenever everything is finalized, people believe it's the right fit for them. And when I first heard it, I was like, that doesn't sound like a real thing. I'm a New Yorker by way of Philadelphia, so I had thoughts. But now that it's happened, yeah, I believe that Nora and we were waiting for each other.
And meant for each other.
Oh,
it's a beautiful process.
Well, it's always nice to hear, especially for folks who may have waited quite some time, to be in a really good place and just happy with their family. Now, when you guys were going through your initial processing with the agency, as well as your wait time, what were your initial expectations of just like birth parents in general and what you thought the future may look like in terms of a potential open adoption?
First, to say we wanted some level of openness from the beginning, whether it would be in-person meetings, sharing photos, letters either back and forth or not for our kiddo as well as for the birth family, if that would be also beneficial for both of them moving forward. I think though we came to it with a lens of understanding that it has been a little more distant, but still very warm and well received throughout the process. We were prepared for a range and really open to supporting and nurturing whatever there was.
And we really wanted to leave space for the birth mom, so whatever she was comfortable with. We didn't want to be over aggressive with our needs because we know that it was also a really tough process for her, and maybe she wanted some space, and how can we give her that and respect her and give her updates at the same time?
Sure.
She is not cut off from our little in any way.
I like this conversation. It's interesting because I think that the last, several years, even longer, a lot of prospective adoptive families coming into our program already have the belief and foundation that openness truly does work and it benefits the child growing up, right? And I think that one of the struggles we have seen is more so what happens when the birth parent doesn't want as much openness, right? So the expectation for most folks is similar to what you just shared. They come in, they know the benefits, they believe in it, they want there to be some level of connection so that the birth parent can have that and the child, right? But then what happens when the birth parent chooses to not have contact? What happens when she chooses not to meet you, maybe doesn't want to receive his or her pictures and letters? How do you as the adoptive family respond? That is kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on today, because for you guys, I feel like you have a great outlook on that. So share with us a little bit of your experience at placement and what has transpired in terms of openness moving forward after that.
So what transpired at placement? First, we were an emergency placement. So I should, in full disclosure, say I did not sleep the full night before the initial paperwork was signed.
There's a lot of different things happening that day, and it's just a wild adventure.
But I would say coming into it is realizing that with the emergency placement, a lot of the decision to make the placement was very, very fast. So what would be most helpful to birth mom in this situation? And I want to be clear that this person goes by birth mom. Those are her pronouns from what we know of her. So what would be most helpful? And it's to continually know that Nora, who is our child, is in a loving and loved place. Coming in with that perspective, we can provide that reassurance to birth mom, regardless of whether the response is immediate or it's just her liking pictures on 23 snaps.
Which is a great app that we use to send things across to her privately, so only she sees them.
And those are those little bits of contact. I think what we are doing is leaving the door open and leaving our hearts open. So if at any point she feels like it is the healthiest decision for her and also her littles and her family to come back in, she is welcomed with that.
I think we're excited. Like, I think we think about her a lot, and we're completely open and ready for whenever she's ready, and giving that care and that space to make sure she's comfortable and not forcing herself. It's going to be a very emotional meeting when it does happen, if it does happen. So we want to make sure that we're all in the right space for it and ready, including our daughter.
We can help our little when that time comes, but in the meantime, the photos are really important, and like we take care to send happier memories, if it makes sense, or more exciting things, but also just the first time she had a donut.
Huge moment in anyone's life.
Huge moment in truly, or like the first time she was on a swing. Things like that are really, I think it is very important. Jason does too, like to not say like, oh, if you didn't respond or like 20 pictures, I'm not sending you like this first thing. Because if we aren't giving the example of lovingness and open-heartedness, how can we expect that from our kiddo? And how can we help invite someone in who made an incredibly selfless and tough decision that has brought our life infinite amounts of joy? So to extend that lovingness to birth mom feels really easy. And I think sometimes we let other things block it. Like, what if releasing that and tapping into the love that we have built with our kiddo allows the love to extend?
I mean, you say that so beautifully. Like, I can't tell you how much that means to hear you guys like be in that place of it's not about anything else but that. And I don't know if that took time to develop, and maybe the reality of actually being placed with a child, becoming a parent, loving your child enough to know that this is beneficial for everybody, like truly remarkable. Because sometimes people are very focused on themselves and what they're getting or not getting. And if they're not getting something, they're not going to give. And I love that you're in this place of recognizing the importance regardless. I just want to point out for perspective for our audience members. So you were placed with your daughter. You have never met your birth mother in person. You do continue to send pictures and letters through both the agency as well as on our wonderful app 23 Snaps, and you're able to see that the birth mom likes certain photos at different times, which does show that she's looking at them, which is great, right? Don't always know that, but that's good to hear. Share with us a little bit of like what you hope for the future, where you hope to see this go, or what you'll be content with if it doesn't go that way.
I don't think I have a specific vision, and that has helped me a little bit. What I want for birth mom and her family and her situation is to have a wonderful, vibrant life, and to hopefully feel comfortable in articulating that connection with Nora, because I believe that the connection is there from those likes. So it's about them connecting at some point.
I love a connection also at some point, but I think it's going to happen organically if it does, and naturally. I mean, so just like be ready for when it happens. It's almost like kind of waiting for the call that we were matched. Like it might be, we'll make the plans, we'll come down next week and we'll do this meeting and we'll think about it then. But I think until then, it's really be patient, have a lot of space for her.
And I would even go as far as to say, when you were talking about connection, Danielle, like even going off of the birth mother's ability to make the choice, to make the plan, that started that connection even there, right? So even if the birth parent doesn't go on 23 snaps and like photos, like she's still present in the bigger picture of your daughter's life because she made that choice. And I wish people would recognize that regardless of what happens after that moment of her or him making that choice, regardless of what they choose to do, and there's a lot of variables that play into why they may choose to participate or not participate, but that in itself is something that you should hold very highly in your family and your teachings and your love and your prayer and like all these things that you may have in your household, because that's valuable to the bigger picture of open adoption. So it bothers me when people dismiss a birth parent that chooses to not participate in open adoption, because the fact that she showed up, she made this plan, she signed that paperwork, potentially she chose you as the family or approved you as the family. Those are all remarkable things that your child will hold on to as she grows up.
Absolutely co-sign. And to also know that we right now don't know what is happening in birth mom's life, and to really respect and give that space is critical and hugely important, because in the way that they only have a glimpse into our lives, we only have a glimpse into theirs. So I would urge parents post-placement to say, will this benefit my kiddo in the future? Will this help us grow our family in the future? Because regardless of whether there is contact or not, are you verbally or non-verbally communicating that it's possible and that your child came from a place of love?
That is so important. Like respecting the birth parent's space. That doesn't always happen, because I think we may get very caught up in her choices affecting, us or you as parents. And I think that what you're saying is you have to be okay with not knowing what may be going on in his or her life. And it's not your role or your responsibility in this picture of an adoption triad to judge her, to question it, to like, you can wonder, right? Because it's only natural as human beings, and you care about that person, to wonder what's going on, but to not get so caught up and involved in what's happening, but really try to just be present with what role you're playing in this picture of open adoption.
I couldn't imagine if birth mom wanted to contact us and we had like a chip on our shoulder or an attitude. Like, one, how would that end up affecting Nora? Even if you're like, I have feelings myself, how would that end up affecting the kiddo? Making a placement for adoption is unbelievably hard. We don't know what the baggage is around that, but I can only presume an attitude would make it worse.
Yeah.
Orientation. So if we can continue to communicate love and an open door, that leaves it open for whenever or if ever she is ready, either with us or when Nora is a little bit older.
And I think that that's all you can do, right? That's the role that you're playing in this. And that is what you're going to be able to teach your daughter that you did throughout these years. And regardless of whether birth mom is in the place to ever come back again, you still provided that space. And I love the concept of there being this open door if and when she wants to come back in. And there may be moments that she comes back in and then she goes back out again, and things go on in her life that you don't have control over, and she may have to take space again. So I think it's being okay with the inconsistency of openness that we're trying to get across in these conversations, because I think that there is this stereotype of it's either all or nothing. So you have to either have that birth parent who wants all the visits, the pictures and letters, the texting, all this, or nothing at all, because anything in between can be somewhat problematic for the family. And I think what I'm hearing from you, and hopefully our audience members are hearing, is it's not that way, right? You guys are open.
We are open. All of those layers are complicated, right? Our stance doesn't have to be. Our stance can be open heart, open door.
I love that. And you can only control what you can control, right? You can only focus on what your space is in this, and then the rest is just all about faith, and whatever's meant to be will happen.
I'm like faith in the secular sense too.
Well, and it's similar to when you were going through the waiting process, like you talked about. You know, I'm sure your social worker kept telling you, when it's meant to be, it will happen. Just be patient. If she's meant to come back and have a relationship with you, that's great. If not, you guys are okay either way.
It's our job to make sure our little is great too, and confident and self-assured and all of those things.
I love that. And I love that you have built this relationship with your birth mom, regardless of never having met her. And it's something that I think will improve over time. And our hope is that birth mom does get to a better place where she feels like she can have that relationship with you, because it can be something really beautiful. But if not, we wish her well and hope that her journey in life is happy, and she's able to take care of her people as well.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you. I think it's always helpful for folks to hear from people who are in it, especially in your circumstances, because I see your pictures and letters come through. I read them. I just see your commitment, your love, your open heartness. And I feel like it's important for folks to know that can happen regardless if birth parents choose to participate. And I think that the world could use more people like you, especially in the adoption community. I truly mean that. You make building open adoption relationships easier. And I love the fact that you put your daughter first. And that's the most important thing. What is in her best interest, not what's in yours or the birth mother's. It's what's in your child's best interest.
And that's the most
You get a little emotional.
what you can say with parents. It's like, we tried.
And this stuff's not easy. There's no right or wrong way of handling this, right? So folks will call us and ask questions, and we give our guidance, our suggestions, what we've seen that works or doesn't work. But everybody's just trying to navigate these really just layered relationships and lots of things involved. But I think coming to the table with an open heart, being flexible, being able to understand the other person's experience and perspective is also crucial. We do our best, and we're happy that you guys are in a good place, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
You take care. Well, we're grateful for folks like Danielle and Jason. Please continue to tune in to some of these really helpful topics, and we hope to see you guys soon.